to the professors. Now, this is the research work that was published between 96 and 2006. It's about the Central Asian economies soon after they gained independence in 1991. Ladies and gentlemen, today I would be speaking about my research papers on the economy of Central Asia, published in the biannual journal Central Asia between 96 to 2000, soon after the Central Asian states gained independence in 1991, emerging as the Commonwealth of Independent States. These works have now been brought under one umbrella for the benefit of readers, researchers, and all those who are interested. The early years in the erstwhile USSR, Comecon stands for Council of Mutual Economic Assistance. In the erstwhile USSR, intra-Comecon trade was successful due to factor price equalization. After relaxing tariffs between intra-Comecon partners, costs became zero due to the common frontiers. Custom Union's success in those times was attributed to optimistic price equalization. Barter and tolling also worked very well as a substitute to the theory of comparative advantages. The Central Asian states were typical socialist command economies known as the Soviet type economies, STEs, also centrally planned economies, a softer connotation. Transition post 1991 began with optimism and courage, not only in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Tajikistan, but Russia as well. They were primed to bring a mutually reinforcing market-oriented structure, keeping socialist characteristics intact. Perennial excess demand and goods shortages was the guiding force behind erstwhile USSR's economic plans. Over excessive emphasis on inputs left an overgrown industrial sector in the STEs, mainly because of inward-oriented economic development. This raised cost of production. Input substitution strategy for too long resulted in under-specialization. Gradually, trade and industrial reforms were brought about in the cards, especially in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, mainly through the joint ventures. Soon, the two main issues with CPEs, state ownership and currency convertibility, had been overcome. Regulatory mechanisms on the close of the year 1991 had become obsolete and inefficient. Between 1984 to 1991, exports declined. Comecon collapsed. Switching over the hard currency was difficult at times due to its shortages. External debt had risen more than proportionately. Production in erstwhile USSR had declined sharply. Imports had plummeted stridently. Cracks appeared in the export structures. There were technological investment gaps, weak linkage with the world market prices. Real prices differed between intra-Comecon partners. Rates were arbitrary. In the period ahead of 1991, decentralization started swiftly. Enterprises gained powers to conduct trade themselves with certain approvals from the state. New concept of tariffs with deregulation was introduced. Currency regulation was also invoked. Inward-oriented privatization, corporatization of enterprises, matching supply side with the cross checks on the demand side was undertaken speedily. Administrative foreign trade control was substituted with tariffs, with some administrative controls dismantled later on. Export quotas were delivered by the ministries to the producers right at their doorstep. In some cases, these were auctioned as well. Tariffs did not apply to goods prioritized for exports. Tariff rates varied between 20 to 30% of the world market prices. Multiple currency coefficients were abolished. Exporters were obliged to surrender hard currency at the rate of 55 rubles a dollar to the central bank. Old thinking changed as people were convinced that hard money was an ordinary currency taken away by the government and returned to them for free. Foreign exchange rates were unified, liberalized, and categorized as number 1, exchange rate for hard currency. Number 2, surrender. Number 3, currency auction. Number 4, purchase of imports. They did not follow any of the Western exchange rate regimes. The era of stability, 1996 to 1999. With these exchange rate initiatives after 1991, the dollar depreciated twofold against the ruble in 1993. Later, Commonwealth of Independent States declared their own currencies and ditched the ruble, which was a departure from an overvalued exchange rate, resulting in a salutary effect. Lack of adjustment between their currencies and the dollar brought about a free fall in their value. The depreciation they faced was unforeseen, unexpected, but their currencies stabilized eventually. Here, Uzbekistan is a case point. Inflation control and in-depth reforms revived their economies. Their own structural reforms bolstered foreign investment, especially in Kazakhstan, which reinforced overall economic recovery in all the Central Asian countries as well as Russia. Indigenous fiscal reforms paid off very well. Since 2000 onwards, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan have demonstrated inspiring growth in exports. Crude oil, gas, cotton and wheat, ferrous and non-ferrous metal, etc. Their imports mainly comprising services. Soviet trade structures. The Soviet trade structures.
I have to make an announcement. Considering the importance of today's lecture, after this you will have the first term examination, right? Please.
Thank you. The Soviet trade structures are by far the best. Cars are also the Central Asian republics. This term is used by the Western economists and authors. Cars' reliance on the economies of scale criteria invigorated the production process, thereby strengthening intra-Comecon trade. parts of the process were hived off to the backward regions of the Central Asia. Intra-Comecon trade is preferred even today because of the economical transportation costs, but lacks patronage of ruble. Erstwhile USSR used to wrap up CARS deficits by diverting surpluses of those countries located close to Europe. CARS are presently disadvantaged to have lost those budgetary subventions offered during hard times. CARS maintained reasonably developed socialist systems. CARS openness to foreign investment. Kazakhstan's company law operates under treaties signed in 1992 with USA, Germany, and Finland, having general guarantees for foreign investors. In Kyrgyzstan, a foreign investor could repatriate profits after deduction of taxes. In Tajikistan, all sectors were open to foreign investment. In Turkmenistan, foreign investors had the right to transfer property to home country. In Uzbekistan, there is no bar on repatriation of capital abroad, except subjects included in the prohibited list. Withholding tax applied to these repatriations, which is a normal tendency. The social sector performance goes like this. The indicators such as under 5 mortality rate, infant mortality rate, gross national income per capita, life expectancy, total adult literacy showed that CIS had an edge over sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East and North Africa, Southeast Asia and the Pacific Rim developing countries under the MDG goals. Almost 91% of the CIS population were using adequate sanitation facilities and improved drinking water in the year 2000, the year of signing of the MDG's declaration. Unfortunately, the population of Afghanistan was underrepresented in their own native country, was left behind, as in MDGs no provision existed on the status of refugees with respect to their right to benefit from MDGs. It should have been the moral, ethical, financial, and administrative responsibility of their parent country. Today, Afghanistan lags behind in MDGs as well as SDGs. Concluding thoughts. After the independence, CAR's successful economic policies in the early years brought them into the limelight as the most vibrant, self-motivated, self-restructured, and self-reformed emerging economies. They have retained the limelight even after 20 years, as their GDP has been increasing at the rate of 6.2% on yearly basis in real terms, reaching $347 billion. The region is characterized by rapid economic growth. Progress on moving towards market economy has been made, but a lot remains to be done. CARS made a dramatic recovery in the 90s. Between 97 to 2012, the average annual growth rate was in the range of 6.5 to 7.4%. The past comes to the fore again and again with candor and speaks about preserving the legacy of socialist economic system for the future generations to follow, learn from it, protect themselves and excel. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.